We describe our closest bonds as selfless, but beneath the surface of human relationships lies a hidden layer of trade, a calculated economy of mutual need. We trade emotional support for financial security, or praise for physical intimacy. We tend to mask these psychological exchanges under the noble label of giving, even when we are subconsciously checking for a return. The true nature of the trade becomes clear the moment a partner, friend, or family member stops meeting our specific needs. The affection we thought was permanent can shift into coldness in an afternoon. People we once wished well suddenly become sources of frustration, simply because an unspoken expectation in the relationship went unfulfilled. When giving is tied to a transaction, relationships eventually turn into mental spreadsheets, a constant, exhausting calculation of who owes what to whom. This transactional anxiety drives our obsession with hoarding wealth. We try to stockpile enough resources to secure not just our own lives, but those of 7 generations yet to be born. This relentless accumulation of future security often costs us our present moment peace. We spend today worrying about a tomorrow we may never see. It is a frantic attempt by the ego to control a world that is, by its very nature, unpredictable. Curious tone. If our interactions are so deeply wired to be calculated and self-serving, is it possible to experience an act of giving that isn't a trade? Because human generosity is so often tangled with our own egos, we have to look outside our own social structures to find a different model for how to give. Nature itself offers a direct, powerful contrast to the human transactional economy. Consider the simple act of scattering seeds for wild birds or leaving nourishment for a squirrel. You don't expect the bird to pay you back. There is no praise to be gained from the squirrel, and no promise that it will care for you later. The exchange ends the moment the animal is fed. Often we give by dropping off a gift and walking away, which allows us to keep feeling like a provider from a safe distance. But there is a different way to give, by staying, by sitting quietly and sharing the moment while the animal eats, without demanding anything in return. In this setting, the reward is the act of nourishment itself, entirely separate from any need for external validation. To truly observe the natural world, we have to arrive wanting absolutely nothing from it. When we look at nature only to see what it can do for us, labeling things useful or useless, we trap ourselves in extraction. But removing that expectation shatters the filter. We see the world as it is, not as resources. Animals can sense this shift. When a human stops projecting a desire or a threat, their natural fear begins to fade, replaced by a slow, physical building of trust. Harmony, whether in the woods or in our own communities, becomes possible only when we stop looking for what we will get out of the interaction. Recognizing that we are transactional by nature isn't a reason to give up. It's the starting point for learning how to interact differently. This is the practice of satkarma, performing deeds for no other reason than the act itself, without looking at the internal ledger of debt and repayment. It means gradually letting go of the anxiety that drives us to hoard every resource for a future we cannot predict or control. We can begin to treat our interactions with other people with the same quiet, expectationless presence we use when watching a wild bird feed. As we practice giving without looking for a return, the mental burden of keeping score begins to lift. The less we calculate what we are owed, the lighter our daily interactions feel. The goal is to move through life emptying that internal ledger, shedding the weight of unspoken debts and material attachments as we go. Selfless giving isn't a way to save others. It's a way to finally step out of the exhausting cycle of calculation that keeps us from being present in our own lives.